Hi, my name's Kyle. I am an avid movie fan and action figure collector, and I've actually just recently taken up collecting action figures again, something I really liked when I was younger, and I'm doing it again now, and it's been really fun and really fulfilling as an adult. And the thing that got me back into collecting, as you know, if you've seen any other figure review videos that I've put up recently, is the NECA Universal Monster Ultimate figures. And I've even branched out and I've started getting some other Ultimate figures recently as well, but I'm really a big fan of NECA. And today I'm going to continue with my kitchen table reviews, where I'm just kind of unpacking and showcasing some of the figures that I have bought that are related to movies that I know really well and really love. And today I'm continuing in the Universal Monster series by reviewing NECA's Ultimate Wolfman figure. So what I'm going to do is review the figure on a few criteria. I'm going to start with the box, and then I'm going to talk about the sculpt, and then I'm going to get into accessories, articulation, price, then I'm going to give it an overall grade or score based on how much I like the figure. So without any further ado, let's get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and start by talking about the box. This is pretty cool packaging, like all the NECA figures. So you have a box that kind of showcases the different aspects of the figure, and it's also pretty comport, so it will fit well on things like DVD cases and shelves. So this box has some particularly cool imagery on it. I really like the way that they've included the moon and some fog, and they showcase the particular poses that they do. And I know it's kind of tough to see in the daylight. I don't have like a whole studio to control the lighting super well, but there is a window into the figure, and then on the other side here in the flap, the little door, we've got another nice cool pose for the Wolfman figure. There's a lot of things to like about this box. We've got the OG movie poster here. There's, like I said, a great inverse of the typical lighting effects here. So instead of getting darker around the edges, they actually have fog to brighten things up, which I think makes a lot of the text and such seem much more visible than on other figures. We've got moonlight shining around, and so that's really cool. And the sides of the box as well as the back show off the unique head sculpts and the different kinds of hands. The back shows off the accessories in a way that's helpful. There's a cane here, that's the main accessory. It doesn't really show the wolf trap that is also included, and it doesn't particularly show off the human feet for the character, so you can tell that there are wolf hands and then there are human hands, just like there's wolf head sculpts and human head sculpts for the character, but there are also human feet, so that helps to showcase the potential full transformation of the character. I do think maybe there was a missed opportunity here to kind of show off a transformation scene, slowly changing from human into Wolfman. But, you know, it is what it is. It still looks pretty cool. They've got good effects. They've got good lighting. I do also wish that the Wolfman himself was a little more centralized here. This poster is kind of bizarre in a number of ways anyway, but without going into all of that, it really seems like we have this woman who is a victim of the Wolfman kind of front and center, and it would have been nice to maybe have a poster where the Wolfman himself was a little bit more front and center. But overall, they've got some really cool effects, and they show off the different sculpts pretty well. Many of the accessories, again, if you open up, you can see the cane accessory here. You can see the different hand sculpts and head sculpts, and you can see the wolf trap pretty clearly, even though it's not showcased on the box art. So the box is pretty cool, although again, the poster on the front kind of decentralizes the Wolfman a little bit. It doesn't actually show all of the different accessories, and it's maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity with the way that they arrange things on the back as well. I'm going to say this is cool, maybe just a little above average, and so that's going to be a 3.5 out of 5 for me on the box art. All right, next we're going to look at the sculpt. So you'll actually notice there are two interior pieces here. There's one plastic piece that holds the main figure and most of the accessories, and then there's another piece that has the human feet as well as a little stand, because it is kind of difficult to get the Wolfman to balance on his own. So the fact that they included that stand, I think, is pretty nice. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pull out the figure here. I really like keeping the boxes for these figures because they do show well on shelves and coffee tables and stuff. Getting this figure out is a little bit trickier than some of the other figures because the hands or the arms slide behind the plastic through little slots to keep the figure safe there. So we're going to go ahead and get the character out and just start with the things that are immediately noticeable for the sculpt of the main character here. I just have the regular, most neutral head for us to look at. There's a lot of things to like about this sculpt. I know that for pretty much all the NECA figures, I just go on and on about how much I like the sculpt. For the sake of ease, I'm just gonna lean our buddy up against the box there. Okay, so I know I go on and on about the sculpts, but that's a thing that I really, really like about NECA. The figures look really good. Okay, so you can see texture for the hair here, and you can feel it too. This isn't just painting something on, but they've actually got grooves in there, which are really nice. I think you can tell this is a pretty good likeness of the makeup that they put on Chaney, which I think is really cool. The hands also feature this cool texture. So I'm just gonna set this over here for a minute. You can feel the texture on that too. And there's lots and lots of detail. If I can get this to refocus a little, you can see all of the fur. And that detail isn't just on the head sculpt, but on the whole body of this figure, which I think is really cool. You have wrinkles on the shirt and on the pants. And I think that doing the wrinkles on the costume this way is actually the best way to mask a lot of the lines that are used for points of articulation. So those are sort of inevitable, right? Because you want the figure to move around, but the more we can see the lines, the less realistic, obviously, it's gonna be, especially if you're interested in doing something like figure photography. So overall, the sculpt, I think, works really well. There's great textures on the head and the limbs and the clothes. They use the wrinkles to mask points of articulation. The only really obvious ones are here at the elbows. I have yet to see a figure that covers that very well, so maybe that's something that they'll figure out in the future. I'm not sure if I have a particular solution. And I do think that there are particularly expressive eyes for this figure. They have a lot of detail around the eyes. That's another thing that I like about NECA figures in general, though, is they really focus in on the details of expression and the expressions that make characters sort of famous, right? So I'm gonna move the human head into view here. So we've got Chaney as Lawrence, and there's a lot of texture in the hair, but look at the eyes here. We've got sadness in this normal face, right? This kind of forlornness, and then we've got inquisitiveness with the side glare and the sunken eyes here, and then we've got the angry head that I'll show off a little bit later. The sculpt is great. I think maybe one of the best in the Universal Monster series, so I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Next, we're going to talk about accessories. So I'm just going to move in this little box here. So basically you have the character's body and then the head sculpts that snap in. And then you have other accessories, the wolf trap and the additional hands that are held in by slats. And that slat also holds in the wolf-shaped cane. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the slats out so that we can access the other stuff. And just for example, I'm going to grab one of these human hand sculpts. Oh, lost it there. So you get 3 human hands and 2 wolf hands. And we're just going to pop the wolf hand out and put on one of these human hands. You can make Lawrence fully human if you want to, but you can also have him fully wolf, or you can have him mid-transformation. So there's a number of ways to kind of set up this figure. And I'm going to pull out the cane here. This is a cool accessory, and it's also one that's very important in the film. So for anybody who's watched the film, you know that carrying this wolf cane kind of becomes a signature thing for Lawrence. And also, its head is made of silver, so it actually helps him to sort of hunt and kill the original Wolfman who passes the curse on. I don't think that's a spoiler. Happens pretty early on. So ideally this hand here, not ideally, this is how it's supposed to work. We've got this human hand that has an open spot up top here, and you can snap the cane in to where he's holding the cane. Although, of course, I'm having some difficulty doing it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so the cane can be held in several different ways here. So you can slide it up to where he's using it almost like a weapon. You can slide it down where he is holding it a little more in sort of a dapper way. Or if you move the cane into a different position, he can hold it like this, where the head is on the other side and it's pointed down. So that way it's a little bit more like a walking cane. So I think it's most important in terms of, like, if you're replicating the plot, to be able to push the staff up a little bit so you can see how it might be used a little more like a weapon, which is how it works in the movie more often than not. So the hand sculpts are aesthetic, but they are also practical, and he has hand sculpts, human hand sculpts, that work pretty similarly in terms of the pose and everything to the wolf hand. So you can see the wolf hand there, and then there's a pretty similar human hand with nice detail there too, veins on the hands and everything. Very, very cinematic, right? Very cool. Okay, so we've got the cane. I like the cane pretty well. And we have the different hand sculpts that I've shown you. And there's, don't take this the wrong way or let it get too weird, but they've got some feet for you. They've got some foot sculpts there. And you can pay as much or as little attention to the detail on that as you want, but they gave you some long toes. They've got kind of some messed up toenails there. Looks like he's been running through the woods, so that's probably good for the movie. And they've got some veins running through there, right? Nice posable ankles. So this works pretty well with the overall character here. And then, as I mentioned, there's also, it's kind of difficult to get out, so there's a stand, and that's what I should have been using this whole time. You can maybe see that there's a little bit of plastic that comes over this to help keep it in, so you actually have to sort of push from behind to pop it out, which I've done before, but it's going to be difficult for me to do on camera here, apparently. There we go. There might be an easier way to do that, and if you know the easier way, please feel free to leave some kind of comment telling me. I'm not going to be offended. So there you go. You can match the little piece on the stand to the divot in the foot, and that will help the character be a little more freestanding here. I'll just lurch him toward you a little bit. Not bad, huh? Not bad. Okay, there we go. And then the last prop here is we have a wolf trap, also a cool idea from the movie. And it can, I think, close all the way here. You can push a button and it seems like it should release this other part, but mine does not release. I don't know if that's a defect on the part of my particular figure or if it's just not meant to actually snap all the way, but one side kind of closes, so you could get the foot in there. It does look kind of plain, in my opinion, so it could it could be dressed up a little bit more. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to a friend of mine, Omega, on YouTube, and he very generously did a 3D print of another wolf trap for me that's just a little fancier looking, has some extra detail. It looks really cool for shots because it's a little shinier. So it does not close, but in fairness, neither does NECA's. So there you go, using the resources you have, like 3D printers. Oh, steady on, buddy. There you go. Like 3D printers to help create additional items for like accessories or background or whatever is pretty cool. I haven't really looked into whether someone sells additional accessories for NECA figures. I'm sure that exists somewhere out there, but there's lots of possibilities for things to develop for props here, right? So the accessories, I think, are pretty great. There's exactly enough hands, in my opinion. That's maybe a weird thing to say, but I am starting to get a little bit overwhelmed by the sheer number of hands that are included with NECA figures. The head sculpts are cool. Having a million hands in just slightly different poses is kind of weird to me. Some people like it, that's fine. But in this case, there are 2 wolf hands, there are 2 basic human hands, and then 1 extra human hand, which is just there for practicality to grab the cane. I like having clear practicality for the pieces. There's also 2 human feet and 2 wolves' feet. The signature wolf cane is very cool. I think it works great with the figure. It looks great with the figure. It's sturdy enough to hold up on its own while also being flexible enough to slip into these difficult spots with the hand there. The wolf trap, I don't think works especially well on its own. I mean, aesthetically it's fine, but it's also, you know, there seems to be this thing where you step on the mechanism and then it flips the deal. It doesn't work very well, and it doesn't look particularly detailed, so that's fine. That's fine. I would have liked to see maybe some other props included besides just the wolf trap and the cane. It seems like Wolfman doesn't have very many props, but you do get some extra feet, so that's a bonus, I guess. Overall, I would say this is pretty good, and I'm going to give the accessories also a 3.5. Okay, very important. We're going to talk about points of articulation. I really like the articulation on this figure. I also have a more like scary face here for you. So we've got the side view and we've got the open mouth and the growl. I think this particular head sculpt is really cool, but that's not what we're talking about, so that's fine. I think that this is a very movable figure. The arms come out pretty well, given the overall sculpt. So the hands move up and down. You can move them out. You can bend the elbows and twist them around there, and you know, do the scary hands. Torso is a little bit difficult to swivel, but I can't imagine needing to move it around too much there. Legs are very movable, and that's obviously important for this figure because you want to get the like crouch thing going sometimes there. And the hands, you know, can do the arch thing like that, so that looks pretty cool. The character, again, crouches easily. The changeable feet gives it some extra swivel to adjust balance, so it is a lot easier to balance the figure as a human rather than as a wolf. And again, this is, I think, kind of a consistent weak point for NECA. Unfortunately, the head doesn't have much backward motion. I think it would be nice to be able to tilt this head a little bit higher for kind of like a lunging sort of pose, but that's all right. The head, neck do swivel fine, and they have pretty normal or typical movability there, so that's not bad. So for me, the articulation covers all your standard stuff from NECA figures, and then maybe actually does just a little bit more. So this figure is very posable, and then again, it has the stand to help with balance so that you can do even more things with it, and I think that's great. So we're going to give it a 4.5 on articulation. Last thing we're going to cover here is price. I would say the highlights for what you get out of this are that it's well made and very posable. The sculpt is great, and the movement is particularly great. I think the accessories are efficient. I do appreciate the fewer hand sculpts here, and I like that it was given changeable feet. That was a good substitution. The effects for the side art and the art on the back of the box are particularly good, and so I really liked that. On the drawbacks end of things, I think there were fewer overall accessories available. The design for the wolf trap was sort of poor. I think it could have been a little more exciting if it had more functionality. And then the box could emphasize the Wolfman himself a little more on the front cover, and that would have been nice as well. So overall, I do think this is a pretty good bang for your buck, as it were. And so I would give the overall quality of the figure compared to the price that you're paying for it, which for most folks I think is going to be about $35. Overall, that's going to be a 4.5 out of 5. Now, when we put everything together, this is going to come out to about the score of a B. And I think because I like the figure and because I tend to do this a lot, that the raw scores come out a little bit lower than I like, I would personally give this a B+. I would say this is definitely better than your average figure overall, but the accessories and the presentation are just a little bit lacking in certain areas. So overall, I think this the whole package is a B+, and if we were just looking at the figure in terms of the sculpt and articulation and stuff itself, I would say that that's probably even higher. So Wolfman is a very cool figure, and I have really enjoyed messing around with this figure and doing some amateur figure photography stuff, and I would love to hear from y'all what you think about the toy, and which other NECA figures or monster figures you would like to hear about too. Thanks for taking the time to listen. Like the video if you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope to have more reviews of Universal monster figures ready for you soon.